Welcome again, everybody. Thanks for everybody that's actually joined. I'm gonna ask Dr. Mdu to please open for us in a word of prayer before we start with our program for the evening.
We can pray. Thank you, God, for such a wonderful time of learning. We pray in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mdu. I see that our pastors have joined. Pastor Mancha, do you mind to just welcome everybody? And once you're done, I'm just going to ask Ntundeli to then do the announcements before we get started.
Good evening, Bazalwani. Good evening. Unlike Musudi, I can't show my face, but trust me, there's a face behind this voice. It's always such an honor and a privilege for us to come together in this manner to discuss issues relating to our careers. You know, most of us, when we think careers, we're thinking about the time when we work. But careers really cover everything. You could be running a business, you could be studying, you could be involved in ministry work, you could be involved in projects. But at a certain level, there's some type of skill that you are utilizing for that work that you are doing. Sometimes people would even think about stay-at-home moms and they'd be like, no, but you actually don't have a career. But when you start to interrogate what those people are doing, you realize that every single one of us has a career. We may call it different things. So really, you are welcome to the Church of Jesus Christ. I think in the announcements, they will tell you more about the church. They will also tell you more about what we do with the Career Development Corner. But one of the things that I was really thinking about just before I joined is just the consistency of the CDC, that the CDC has really, really been consistent in ensuring that we meet every month. We have not missed even a single beat. And I think we are so grateful. If you are one of those people that have either attended all of them in person or you went back to watch on our social media the recordings, I want to believe that your career is in a much better place. And keep in mind that you were getting input from all sorts of places. So thank you very much to the team. I just wanted to send a special shout out. I don't know if they still say it like that, but when I was growing up, that's what they used to say. Shout out to all the CDC members. Thank you very much, Wazalwani. Amen.
Thank you so much, Pastor Mancha. Ntundeni, do you mind to start off with the announcement?
Thank you so much, Shibu. Thank you, Pastor Mancha, for the shout out. For those who don't know me, my name is Nsundeni. For those who know me, my name is still Nsundeni. And I'm part of the CDC team, which is the Career Development Corner. And like the pastor has said, so the CDC is an arm of the Church of Jesus Christ, which has a vision of reaching and discipling all people to become followers of Jesus Christ. And as part of the CDC, we add to that by focusing specifically on the career development aspect within and around the church. And what we try to do is to, one, make jobs more accessible to members, but at the same time, we want to ensure that the members are also well equipped to be able to do well in those jobs. And we also offer and equip the members with career advancement tools, as well as just create a culture of promoting networking for business and career growth. And we do have a number of programs and these talks which Pastor Mancha has been talking about, which have been consistent. It's one of the programs that we have. It's actually our flagship program where we talk around careers every month on the third Wednesday of every month. But we do have other programs. Some are just not running as effectively yet. So we have a WhatsApp group where we share job opportunities, career opportunities. We share bursaries and all those kind of information, and as well as being a support for anything career related. So what I want to encourage everyone, particularly the members of the CJC, is that the Career Development Corner is not for the people who are running the program, but it is for everyone. So what we have created, for example, with the sharing platform is just so that we have that platform, but anyone who sees an opportunity in their company they are hiring, or you are hiring yourself, share those job opportunities. Equally, if you are on the opposite side, wherein you are looking for a job, feel free to talk to us, and let's see if there are any opportunities that we can explore. Equally, when it comes to issues like CV, you want assistance with writing your CV or applying for jobs, feel free to contact us. And on the same vein, if you have got experience and you feel that you can be able to assist people to write better CVs or to do better job interviews, also contact us so that we can help each other grow. So it's really something that we are doing together. So that's one thing that I wanted to encourage everyone. So with regards to our announcements, we have these talks every third Thursday of the month, and our next talk, which will be on the 16th of November, will also be our last talk for the year. And it will be more of a session rather than a talk. And what we want to do in this session is more testimonies. So it's meet and share. So what are some of the things that you learned throughout the year from the CDC that have helped you grow in your career? And we want all those testimonies. So if you have any of that, please feel free to contact us, and then we will have an amazing session. And then again, if you have any opportunities that you are aware of, feel free to share with the Career Development Corner so that we can share them on the WhatsApp group. Anyone is really encouraged to be part of the WhatsApp group. If you're not part of the group, you can contact me, Zianda, Shivu, or any of the CDC team members. And then we also encourage you to attend church if you are a member, and visit us if you're not a member of the CJC. We have our services from 8:30 to 11 a.m. At Midrand Halfway House. You see the address there flighted. And we also have got a Bible reading plan where we have discussions every Monday to Friday. On Monday, we are on Twitter Spaces, and on Tuesday to Friday, we are on Zoom. We also have prayer in the morning from 5:30 to 6. You are also welcome to join us for the first 3 weeks of the month. So thank you so much for attending. Looking forward to an exciting session today where we'll be sharing on diversity and inclusion. Back to you, Shivu.
Thank you so much, Ntundeni. As Ntundeni has mentioned, so our topic for today is around diversity and inclusion. And I've got the privilege to introduce our guest speaker for the evening. And if you don't mind, I'm going to call her Patty. So if you can give me a few minutes just to read around her background and her experience in this field. So Patty is a culture and inclusion specialist at Bowman's Law. Prior to joining Bowman's, she had the privilege of working for a prominent global technology company, Accenture SA, as an inclusion and diversity associate manager. During her tenure there, she gained valuable experience and developed a strong passion for creating and nurturing diverse and inclusive workplaces. As a culture and inclusion specialist at Bowman's, she's focusing on promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion within the firm. She firmly believes that the firm has done noticeable work in cultivating an environment where everyone feels valued, respected, and empowered. Embracing different perspectives and experiences strengthens the firm and opens opportunities for professional growth and success. What attracted her to the firm is Bowman's presence in Africa. The firm prides itself with its strength, which lies in the fact that Bowman's is made up of people, Africans to be specific, from across African continent. With such a diverse geographic footprint, it presents us with a unique opportunity to celebrate and embrace the richness of African culture and talent. CJC, please can you unmute and give a shout out, as Pastor Mancha says, or a round of applause to Mam Patty.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm going to just switch off my video now, so that I don't have interruptions. If you're okay with that, I would love to do that. First of all, before I go into my presentation, I'm really, really humbled that I'm invited to this session. And I'll also want to compliment the church, for this beautiful initiative that you're doing. They say it takes a village, to raise a child. And, by sharing and by, coming together, we're actually creating better opportunities, for all. As they always say that, opportunities will always be there, but they are not dispersed equally. So other people, we need each other, to be able to see or, to come through to opportunities out there. So my topic is around diversity and inclusion in the workplace. And I'm very, very passionate about this. This actually, just defines, me when you speak of diversity and inclusion. But I appreciate that I've been introduced, and that's basically who I am. But I just want to touch a bit around, who personally I am. I'm the 9th child of 10. And, I'm so proud that I think 2 of my sisters are in this call. I'm not young, that young anymore. So you can imagine, if I'm the 9th, how old my siblings are. And I'm so happy that God has been great to me and my family, because our 89-year-old mom is still very much alive, and she's been my role model, throughout my childhood, more now as an adult. I've been married for 25 years, and I'm a mother of 3 children. I'm a sister, I'm an aunt, I'm a colleague. You can call me whatever that you want. I'm a member of United Reformed Church in Southern Africa, and I belong to CWL ministry, proudly so. Like they said, I'm employed by Bowman's, and I'm a big, big, big mental health advocate. Actually, I've been raised, by a mentally challenged parent, which really motivated me to really understand and, advocate around mental health or mental wellness. Philanthropy work, just completes me. I've studied social work, even though I'm not practicing social worker, but, it's just something that I cannot run away from, Whatever type of work I get, I always pull through helping other people, and that really completes me. I started my work at prison, very interesting, and I'll always take that experience with me forever. I love traveling, and I make sure that wherever I go, at least I buy a pair of sunglasses for myself, especially when I'm out of the country. Diversity and inclusion, it's something that also, completes me as a person, I think for me, it's just embedded in my heart. It's not just a job that I'm doing, but that's who I am. If I meet people with disability, I see them with different eye. I'm not just seeing someone who's got disability, but I see a person who's differently abled. And being around people, just energizes me. So I didn't know that I was actually an extrovert. I always thought I was an introvert until I did an assessment, and I saw that I'm an extrovert, and I understand why am I an extrovert, because, it's all about energies. So I get my energies when I'm with people. So just to go into what diversity, inclusion, and equity is, I don't know out of this group, how many people really have heard a lot around diversity and inclusion, or diversity, equity, and inclusion, especially in the workplace. So when you speak of diversity, inclusion, and equity in the workplace, we're actually looking at instances as an employer where we actually promote fairness, respect, and creating opportunities for all employees, regardless of their background, whether one is, we don't consider sexual orientation, gender, ethnicity. So we look at them as employees in an organization. And diversity actually makes us, diversity actually creates excitement in terms of, you can imagine if we were living in a place where we're all the same, I don't think it will be as exciting as it is. So diversity in the workplace does the same, it creates opportunities for employees, to bring along their differences, and more about that, it also creates an opportunity for innovation, where we've got different people coming together, with different ideas, different perspectives. We tend to see opportunities for growth within the company. We see opportunities for innovation, I, as an individual, it's not easy for me to be more innovative because I can only see this color as pink, while someone in the call can actually see purple in this color. Or someone can say, actually, when we mix pink and purple, they'll bring up this beautiful creation that will benefit us all. And diversity also encompasses uniqueness within individuals, within organizations. Remember, every individual is unique. And as organizations, it's important, that we actually recognize and acknowledge uniqueness of every individual. Even twins are not the same, they can be identical, but in terms of behavior, in terms of what they like, in terms of how they do things, they actually tend to be different. So if I can give you an example, when I speak about diversity, it's like, when you go and buy a box of crayon, multicolored crayon. So just imagine that box with different colors, every color in that box, has got a different purpose and it gives a different result. So look at diversity at the workplace, even at the church environment, how we bring about, that beautiful end result because we are so different. And when we speak of inclusion, we speak of, creating an environment where individuals, regardless of who they are, regardless of their background, they feel that they are respected and they are valued. And, the environment actually creates a sense of belonging, Imagine if you are in a place, let me say I invite you to my house, for a party. And, once you get into the yard and whatever, you sit there, I totally forget about you. I'm just concerned about other people, making sure that Shibu has eaten, making sure that the pastor has had the most, special meal of the day and whatever. And you're just sitting at the corner, So you will definitely feel like, you are being excluded here, even though I've invited you, but I'm really not making it easy for you to feel that you are part of the bigger picture, to create a sense of belonging. And when I speak of belonging, actually refers to a point where we don't make people to fit in. Normally we confuse fitting in and belonging. We think that if we fit in, we belong, like I know, especially at some workplaces, or generally speaking, even at churches, you'll hear people say, I just try, just try to be like Mr. So-and-so, or just go with the flow, Going with the flow is not inclusion. Going with the flow is not belonging. And for me, fitting in, it's like, I always say it's like an act, When you act, there will be a point where you actually feel tired because it's not you. So inclusion encourages people to bring their authentic self forward. So whenever we relate to people, let's always strive, towards creating that environment that actually people will feel that they belong. So can I just ask, just 1 minute, any person who's brave enough to share, an instance where you actually felt excluded, it could be at school, home, work, anywhere where you felt excluded. What happened and how did you feel, experiencing that scenario? Anyone? I can't see if there's anyone raising hand. Shibu, I will rely on you, or Ziana, any other person.
It says Zoom user. Please announce your name.
Okay, the Zoom user is your sister, Faith.
Okay, hi, Faith.
Okay, well, I can share my experience. I love sports, but I'm not good at it. and I'm a big fan of it. So sometimes you'll get excluded because you don't keep up with the good people or with the fast people. I can give an example. I'm a runner, but a very slow runner. And at some point I was told that, you know what, you will never finish comrades, forget it. You are too slow for it. And I felt like I was excluded because no one came to me and said, we can help you to become faster and achieve your goals the way you want to achieve them. So when you talk about exclusion, I think that's one of the things that when you are required to perform in a team sport or a team environment, you push yourself to become better and to be seen by people that you are really trying. And I felt for me, it's the one goal that I wanted to achieve in my life, but because of lack of strength and the ability to run faster, I was excluded. But ultimately, I joined a group that accepted me for who I was, who were willing to assist until I achieved the goals and I finished 3 comrades. So that's what I want to share. That exclusion sometimes it's bad because nobody gives themselves time to appreciate you and to acknowledge where they can assist you to become a better person. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate that. And I'm so happy that we actually used that example. You know, you are so spot on in terms of people, especially around what we can call non-performance or what other people see as non-performance. We tend to leave our non-performance behind and, you know, just move forward because, you know, we've got this agenda that we need to actually achieve. You know, forgetting that, you know, actually when we embrace them, when we bring them along, they can actually perform much better than, you know, we think that they could. Like, for instance, even in a church situation, let's say whether it's a youth club or it's a women's ministry or whatever, like we know that when we have meetings, you know, this lady will hardly say a thing, you know, she'll always be quiet, you know, and we'll just move on, you know, without really being concerned about why, you know, is she not contributing. So what is the best way of making sure that we don't exclude other people or we don't leave people behind? Like, for instance, in an example of a meeting, what we can do is that, you know, we put a discussion forward to say, here is what we're talking about. Sianda, I'm aware that we are very good at 1, 2, 3, you know, even though we don't share much, you know, in meetings around what you know. How do you think we should approach this thing, you know? So you're actually inviting Sianda to speak, but the manner in which that you are inviting her is non-threatening, you know, in a sense that, you know, you are actually complimenting her first around, you know, her strength, and then come, you know, to what we can consider as a weakness, you know, in terms of not being very vocal in meetings. But the fact that, you know, you have invited her to come and speak, you know, that becomes very powerful. And as Christians, you know, me, myself being one, I'll urge that, you know, we always strive to include each other in everything that we do, you know. We know that Mr. Mdu might be the best person, you know, to pray, you know. And we know that when Mr. Mdu prays, you know, the whole church will just follow, will feel like, oh my gosh, I've heard him. But allow somebody else who's not at the level of Mr. Mdu, you know, just to share something, you know. We know we're not all good in praying, we're not all good in singing, but we can actually make sure that we don't leave people behind, you know, by tapping into their strengths, you know. Like as I'm talking to you today, you know, I know I'm talking around diversity and inclusion, but I feel like this is also an opportunity for me to minister, you know, the fact that I'm showing you the do's and don'ts, the fact that I'm sharing with you the importance of striving toward inclusion, you know, for me, that is ministering. So we can actually share from different perspectives and ensure that, you know, we all belong. We must always strive to make sure that we create an environment, you know, where our people feel that, yes, I belong. I can be a member of church, but not feeling like I'm really, really belonging. I can be the member of the church, paying everything that is needed, being there, but feeling empty inside because I feel so excluded in terms of, how people are relating to me, in terms of, how I can actually contribute towards the growth of the church, So inclusion plays a very, very important part in the way that we connect with each other. Remember, we are all human and we are social beings. So being social is one of the greatest needs, that as individuals, we need to belong. We need to be part of something. We need to relate to people. So it's very, very important that, we create an inclusive environment wherever we relate. And in terms of equity, when we speak of equity in the workplace, we're actually referring to fair treatment for all employees. We know that it's impossible to treat everyone fairly, but equity, it's all about accessibility, So it's not about equality. When you speak about equity, it's making things accessible to our employees, all employees. If we say that we've got flexi working hours, it should not be applicable to certain group of people, but we must make sure that all our employees, are enjoying the benefit. Like for instance, let's say your work role doesn't allow you to work from home. We should look at how do we compensate you, around that. For instance, if maybe there are 3 people doing similar work, we can work around, okay, maybe 1 week we've got this person working for the whole week, and the other one's got that flexibility and. So when we speak of equity, we need to create an opportunity for people to have access to the resources, and also to work around the barriers or biases that might disadvantage, certain groups. We all have biases. Naturally, every person's got biases, but it's very important that, we are aware of our biases and we work around that, I'll give you an example, like one might feel like someone from Soshanguve cannot be trusted. I'm from Soshanguve, by the way, originally. Someone from Soshanguve cannot be trusted. That's a bias I have, for people from Soshanguve. And sometimes you don't mean bad. It's just those biases are so engraved in you. But it's important that, in the workspace or any space that, we relate with people, we are so aware of our biases and we work around them.
You had your hand up. I'm not sure if you want to comment or ask a question.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Thank you. I actually lowered my hand because I did write my comment, and it was on exclusion. That sometimes in the workplace, people are not even aware that they're excluding other people. For example, you would take a certain group of people for entertainment and leave out the others and still have the audacity to post that on your statuses. When we look at it, we see that we are being excluded, and that creates a toxic environment in the workplace. That was what my comment was all about. Thank you. And by the way, I'm also Patty's sister. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And that's also a beautiful example, because we sometimes, like I've spoken about biases already. So sometimes we exclude people unaware that we are excluding. And it could be in so many ways, like the example Geraldine has given. It could be through our body language. It could be through communication. Like, we say you're not inviting people, but you are posting, So by posting, it's another form of communication, but intentionally, you are not directing it to the people that you are excluding. So exclusion happens in so many ways that it's important that we actually identify, or we need to be so close, to what we're doing, to ensure that we don't exclude people. So I just want to quickly now speak around pillars of diversity. Different organizations agree on the pillars, or what we call priorities around diversity. But I just want to discuss these 6 that I've put here. So the first one will be around gender diversity. So gender diversity generally acknowledges and respect the various ways people identify or express themselves. You know, we are living in a world that is changing on a daily basis. So we're moving more away from just limiting gender to men and women or male and female. So there are other areas that people will actually would like to identify, but more around gender, it's also issues of women related issues. But what's now happening in most of the organization, and that's also what I'm also pushing from my organization's point of view, is the fact that, you know, we cannot just discuss women issues with women. So I'm pushing around allyship, men and women coming together to resolve or to work around the issues that impact both men and women. You know, we are now in the era where we've got legislation that's got, like, for instance, employment equity, you know, where you need to report on, you know, the complexion of your organization. And sometimes we think that when we've got more women or when we have empowered women, we've arrived. Only find that, you know, that you might actually be lacking around men and you need to empower men. So gender issues, you know, should focus both on men and females. And then we've got what they also call LGBT or Pride. Some organizations are matured enough, you know, to actually embrace LGBT, which looks at people beyond their sexual orientation or how they identify or, you know, how they express themselves. I don't know how many of you might have recognized how organizations are now moving more towards, you know, embracing LGBT inclusion. Like, for instance, we've got non-gender toilets in some public spaces, in some, you know, offices, you know. So this is one area that is actually growing more than we can think of. And I also know, I also feel like, you know, as a church, we are sometimes challenged around this, but, you know, we need to pray to God, you know, to assist us, you know, to embrace this in a manner that is not anti the Bible. We also have cultural diversity. Cultural diversity is about, you know, appreciating the difference in societies. We've got different groups of people with different interests. So this is around, you know, how do we put them together into one? And more than that, we also have organizational culture, you know, where we're actually defining the culture of the organization. Like, for instance, let's say CJC grows, you know, we've got CJC in Namibia, we've got CJC in Botswana and wherever. So what would you consider as the culture of CJC? So that's what we're talking about when we speak around cultural diversity or cultural inclusion, being centered around different areas, but we still CJC, and this is who CJC is. When you speak of the culture of CJC, what is the culture of CJC? The culture of CJC is that, you know, we embrace the word of the Lord. It doesn't matter where we are. I actually had an opportunity I was a Catholic before I joined URC. So I went to Rome and I went to a Catholic church, you know. I've attended a service there. The only difference for me was the language, you know, from A to Z, you know, the process was exactly the same. So that's what we speak about, the common culture, you know, despite different geographies or locations that we are based at. And then the other important thing around diversity is ethnicity, what we call racial groups or ethnic groups. We operate from different racial groups. It's important within the workplace that, you know, how do we work together? How do we make sure that we don't exclude one ethnic group over the other? How do we understand the differences in terms of different racial groups? Like, for instance, we know, which touches a bit on culture, we know that as I speak for myself, you know, being Black and female, sometimes there's a way that, I would love to be greeted, or I would appreciate if you speak to me, at least you look at me in the eyes, you show me that you are present, you're speaking to me. But when you work in multicultural organizations, you'll find that maybe you've got someone from, let's say, Asia or whatever country, where their culture is that, I cannot look at you in the eyes when I speak to you, because it's a sign of non-respect. So this plays a very important role in an organization, that we need to understand those. And also, if we come back to South Africa, if we come back to our churches, our churches have changed a lot. We have moved from 100% being South Africans to embracing other nationalities. So it's also very important to understand those ethnic interest and those differences, and it will build us to be more even stronger once we understand and we are able to do that. And also, as part of the pillars of diversity and inclusion, we've got disability, general health, and mental health. Understanding what disability is within the workplace, and understanding the needs of people with disability. Some countries like South Africa are legislated around disability. Like, for instance, our Employment Equity Act says that 2% of our headcount should be people with disability. And over and above that, we should make sure that our offices are accessible, So what does accessibility look like? Having disabled toilet, making sure that if you've got someone with a sight problem, blind or whatever, have the correct equipment for those people to be able to carry their jobs on a day-to-day basis. So disability is becoming big. And also from a church perspective, it also encourages us, to not look at people with disability as, no shame, they're disabled, they cannot do this and that and that. But it's important to understand what disability is, and also look at them as differently abled people. I actually had a meeting with this other lady. She's on a wheelchair. She was short, unfortunately, and she actually became paralyzed. And I've seen research actually saying that we all are prone to be disabled somewhere in our lives. So disability inclusion becomes very important. So this lady was saying to me that she was attending a workshop, and during tea break, like somebody said, like they were talking to each other, they were like, do you think she can have tea? Do you think she takes sugar? Do you, like, she felt like they were talking about her as if she's not there, she doesn't exist. And remember, this lady is just paraplegic, she can hear, she can see, she can do things for herself. But, as we able-bodied people tend to be quick to wanna help them, or be quick, to believe what we believe about disability. So we tend to offend people with disability more, even if we want to, our intention is to assist. So it's very important that when we deal with people with disability, you actually give yourself an opportunity to ask, do you need help, or just wait for them to say, can you please assist me? Treat people with disability the same way you will treat anyone else that is not disabled. So that piece becomes very, very important in diversity and inclusion, especially at the workplace. And, in South Africa, there has been a tendency that people with disability will be given administrative work, or, just, to be there to tick the boxes. That BEE says, sort of enforces us to have people with disabilities. So there will be companies that will just have them on paper, but not really concerned about their development. So this is one piece that it's also very close to my heart, and I'll encourage people, especially in our everyday interaction, let's treat people with disability with respect and, the decency and everything they deserve. Mental health is also big. We carry a lot, I wish Zianda, next time you can invite me to talk about mental health, because it's quite a big piece on its own, but people are carrying a lot. And when you treat people, you should always remember that, they might be going through a lot. And mental health, could be caused by anything. The family relationship could be at work, it could be burnout, where you're just taking everything that is brought to you. You cannot say no, you're unable to set up your own boundaries to say, no, I've had enough, I cannot take this, or okay, I'm happy to help you there, but can I do it in 2 weeks' time once I've done this? So we need to take care of our mental health the same way we do our physical health. If I go to see a psychologist, people shouldn't look down on me because I've gone to see the psychologist. When I go to see the GP, nobody says anything about me going to see the GP. So it's very, very important that we treat mental health the same way we do that, and we push towards destigmatizing mental health. We carry a lot, and I guess pastors can also agree with me that even in the Bible, we do have verses of people who experience mental illness, and some of them were treated badly because of those mental illnesses. So this is a big part, Zianda. I'm happy to touch on this when we have time next time. The last point around the pillars of diversity and inclusion is what we call employee resource groups. In most of the organizations, I think the most powerful or the most known employee resource group would be Women's Forum. So this could be any support group that employees might have, to support one another, like Women's Forum, where they will be talking about, issues of support. And most importantly, Women's Forum shouldn't just focus on, they don't care about me doing this. Women's Forum should push towards career growth. I always preach, to people that our main objectives as Women's Forum is, to lift as we rise. Don't just be happy to be up there alone. Make sure that, when you go up, you take your people with. So that's one area that, is very popular, and, there is an opportunity, for us to actually do more and support each other. We've got LGBT forums as well. We have young talent forums, like, for instance, people that have just recently joined companies, and, they need support in terms of, understanding the business itself, understanding the practices, and so forth. I had an opportunity to work in recruitment, and what I've picked up is that, our young fellows, there's actually so much gap in terms of how they understand the world of work. I will think that some of them with their masters, they will understand that when you get bonuses, it gets taxed, but it's not the case. You will think that, they understand that leave days, when they say you've got sick leave for so many days, it really means that. So it's important that, such ERGs prepares them, to be better employees and have a better understanding of things. And then just towards conclusions, Zianda, I said you must keep me honest with regards to time, but I think this is the last one. Around why is it important to have DE&I in the workplace? I've already touched on the fact that, diversity makes us stronger, diversity makes us more innovative and creative. So in teams that are diverse, we can actually bring wide range of experience and, perspective and different backgrounds. So it becomes very important that, we always have that at the workplace, or even any other, setup like the church. I feel like as I'm talking, these things are really applicable to the church as well. It also gives us a competitive advantage. You can be a better company compared to other your peers. You could be a better youth club, compared to your other, peers. And, it gives you that edge, to be competitive and do better. And from the workplace perspective, it provides opportunity to attract better talent and retain them, So people would actually stay in an environment where they feel like I'm valued here. I feel like I belong. I'm respected. Respect is the main thing that also determines whether a person will stay or not. And then finally, also, it becomes a legal requirement as well. Like for instance, I've already shared with you how the Employment Equity Act, requires us to act on certain things, like when they speak about discriminations. The Act is telling us we cannot discriminate people based on their gender, ethnicity, disability, HIV, and. So it's becoming a legislative requirement that we actually have DE&I in organizations. And, as the trends are changing, there are actually organizations that will actually not do business with you because your D&I doesn't look like where they want it to be. They want to see upfront, let me see your representation in terms of gender representation, ethnicity. What is it that you're doing for your employees? What is your flex policy like? So it's becoming a basic requirement for many organizations to actually have DE&I. As I said, even though my discussion was around, work setup, these are the things that we can practice every day at the church, with our families, everywhere where we actually are with other people. It's always important to make sure that we create that inclusive environment. Zianda, so is it Zianda? I'll give it back to you in terms of questions and so forth. I'll be able to answer.
Sorry, Ifedenia, Zianda, can you just help with the Q&A session?
Okay, thanks, Tibu. Thank you so much, Patty. So I think we can just quickly go through some of the questions and see how far we can go with answering them. So one of the questions says, how do we separate morality, ethics from ethnicity? How does the church embrace different ethnicity based on the moral obligations or assumptions that the human eye has? And then there was, the first one from Geraldine was a comment. So if you're noting, also I have a question. So what is the role of the organization in creating inclusion, wherein you find that kind of exclusion is done off work? So for example, a certain group of people know that after work they go on and have some drinks, and they also talk about work, and you are not included in those kind of situations. How does the work or the company have responsibility in terms of that? If we have other questions, I think one more question, and then she can answer them at the same time before we close. Okay, I don't see any hand. You can answer the two questions. Okay, there's a hand there.
Okay.
The floor is yours.
Okay, it's me again. Sorry, man. I'm just excited about this topic because it's something that's close to my heart. Faith, Patty, you mentioned issues around family in terms of DI, diversity and inclusion. And I come from a risk management background and an intelligence security background. And I've noticed that the problems that we have in society emanate from how families, set up rules in their own environment, and how we grow up learning wrong things in our own families. For instance, I can give an example. You'll have a family that is diverse. We are 10 at home. The different people, we marry in different environments, but there will be those, discriminating activities that we would normally do. It's either we'll discriminate somebody because we think they are gay, and we'll discriminate somebody because we think, they're impacted somehow. And if that environment does not allow a situation where we can embrace this diversity, it becomes a problem in a work environment. for instance, I've always indicated that, you know, in environments that we work in, different environment, as a government, there must be certain programs. Maybe at church you can start them. There must be certain programs that teach young children to embrace diversity, because they become the bigger problem when they are older, because they never had an opportunity to understand. So at a church environment, how do you get your young boys and girls, you know, to accept that we are different and we do things differently? Especially from an education perspective, you know, the bullying that's happening at school, it's only because children don't understand the diversity around how the human being functions. And I think the church is a great area where these things can be addressed. But I don't want to ask the church how do they do it, but I'm just thinking if there's programs that teach young children to become better adults, so that when they are where they are in a work environment, they know exactly how to identify with these issues. Yeah, I'll just leave it there. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Around morality, ethnicity, I just want to say that, you know, we always speak of moral obligation, you know, to do 1, 2, 3. And morality itself, for me, it's diverse in terms of different backgrounds, you know, will influence how we see morality. And when you speak of morality, you speak of ethnicity. Ethnicity is something that also it's there. It's something that you cannot even change. You know, I am Black because I was born Black. I cannot change the fact that, you know, I am Black, you know. So what is important is, you know, how do we make sure that, you know, we bring the two together to actually be harmonious. So when you speak of ethnic diversity, like I'm saying, it's something that is given, it cannot be changed. But you know, what's very important, and I think this will apply to all, is bringing the authentic self forward. You know, once, you know, you are who you are and you are actually pushing authenticity, you know, not pretending to be someone that you're not, you know, it will actually not only put you in a better space, because you will be a bit more relaxed, because you belong to self, you know, you are being authentic and you are doing, I think in today's language, they say, do you, or, you know, something along those lines. So it's very important that, you know, once you are this authentic person, you're actually teaching the next person, you know, to know how to deal with you, you know, like for instance, I grew up being a quiet person. I cry a lot, you know, I cry a lot, and it's a way for me to relieve my stress. And people around me, sometimes they would misunderstand that, and, you know, I was called crybaby or whatever. But, you know, I couldn't stop doing that, because I understand, you know, the value of crying. You know, I offload so much when I cry. And after I cry, I feel like a bit better, you know, to an extent that, you know, people now are becoming sensitive towards how they're dealing with me. You know, they know that even if she cries, you know, give her space, you know, that's what she needs now, and she will be okay. So we need to also teach people that, you know, we relate to, in terms of, you know, how we are, what is our authentic self, you know, that we bring forward. And also around the role that we play. What was the second question around the role that we play to make sure that we're being included? Is it called, or the role that organizations should play? Oh, yes, yeah. So one thing that is very, very important, you know, diversity and inclusion is the hardest thing, you know, in organizations. And it's not an easy practice. You know, people still want to protect what is theirs. People still suspicious. So it's important to always, I'm a big believer in micro steps. Let's start with the micro steps. Let's start small. And for me, starting small is all around education. You know, session like this today, it's educating us so much around things that we might have even taken for granted, or that didn't really ring a bell to say that actually, when I do this, I'm actually excluding other people or I'm making people feel this way. So it's important that, we do those awareness sessions, we do those educational sessions. And I'm so proud of the organization that I'm working, for, that we're really taking diversity to the next level, and we are tackling those issues. And sometimes we also gonna have to speak about uncomfortable issues, and those uncomfortable issues will actually put us in a different level. And also, we encourage people to have courageous conversations. And when you have courageous conversation, doesn't mean that you are being disrespectful. It's important how you do that, The timing should be correct. You cannot approach someone while they are at level 10 and you expect them to hear you, Wait for them to be at level 10, leave them and also take a breath. And when you are ready, and when you see that, the environment is clearer for you to actually talk about these things, then we have those courageous conversations. And it's important to also let people know how whatever happened makes you feel, because sometimes people will just think, this one is Faith, I know she's the crazy one, but not really understanding that, actually Faith is human and she can get hurt over the things that are happening. So those courageous conversations are very, very important. And I spoke about allyship, that we cannot solve certain things alone. We need to create that allyship with other people. There's this thing around, what about the boys? We are actually creating, I feel like we are contributing to what our boys feeling so excluded, because our interventions mostly are around women empowerment. Let's bring a girl child to work, let's do this, while excluding our boys, and without really understanding the impact that this is having on them. So working together, creating that allyship, speaking for someone who doesn't have a voice, if you are at church and you can see that, as Zianda is so frustrated and we know Zianda will not raise a voice, you can say, okay, Pastor, let's talk. I've realized that Zianda this and that, but she's so powerful with this and that. Let's use our voices to speak for other people. That's also another way of showing allyship. I think I'll leave it there for now. Thanks.
Thank you so much for such elaborative comments. And thank you to everyone for your patience and for being with us up to so far. Our social contract is to end at 8, but we appreciate you being here until now. So I just kindly request that we use the next 5 minutes to conclude well. By 10 past, then we'll be closing the session. So I will not be taking any more questions. So I will just raise the 2 questions that are on the chat. If you can just briefly touch on them and then give your concluding remarks. The first question is that, why is it that there is little representation of Black leaders, mostly women at middle management, director and executive level? Why do you think companies still do not promote them at those levels, but rather focus on equity candidates at junior levels? That's the first question. And the next question is, how can the church intensify inclusion, especially in the youth, to ensure equality? Please tackle those questions and give your closing remarks. Thank you.
Okay, all right. I'm just going to be quick in answering this. In terms of companies, you are spot on. There's actually, we are so skewed in terms of representation, but we've got legislations that is actually pushing us, to move at a different level. And sadly also, there's a question of skills shortage. I was working for a tech company, where we literally had like opportunities opened. Like, for instance, you'll want a female cloud late, whatever, and it will be so difficult. So what we are doing, to close the gap, we've got mentorship, sponsorship, and skills development programs, to ensure, including retention programs, to ensure that, our high performance, are identified, and we put them through those programs, to push them, to the levels that, there's actually a gap, without really ticking the box. I'm one person that doesn't like ticking boxes because it doesn't really solve our problem. So that's what most of the companies are doing, especially around corporate. Corporate is really pushing around gender diversity or gender inclusion. So that's exactly what, companies are doing. And, we also need, and it goes back to also our education, especially around people of color. There's an opportunity that we should look at scarce skills, and also focus our attention around there. You'll find that lower level positions, we've got more representation of people of color because of our backgrounds in terms of education. So we've got a mammoth task, as a community, as a church, as whatever, to encourage people to look at other careers, especially where there is a gap for people of color.
The second one was how can the church intensify inclusion, especially in the youth, to ensure equality?
Okay, all right. I think the church is also challenged, especially around the youth, and I'm glad that you've asked that question. As a church, most of the time we are left behind. We're still holding on to old ways of doing things. And unfortunately, society is revolving every day. Society is changing. One constant thing is change. So as a church, we need to be at par with what is happening out there. We need to understand why other things are happening. Like, I know a very sensitive topic around churches is on LGBTQ+. That's something that, as a church, we are challenged with. But the reality is it's happening out there. If someone is from LGBT community, is that person not godly enough to belong, to this church or to be part of this church? And I think the church has got an opportunity because they've got people from different backgrounds. So they do have an opportunity to teach, and make people aware of those things that, they might be excluding people around. I know there's issues around Motoa Kaulwa because of this. Inclusion and diversity doesn't mean that we must put our laws aside, but we need to make sure that we are also reasonable in terms of how we are doing things. So churches are very, very challenged around inclusion and diversity, but it's not impossible for churches to do that. We do have opportunities to do better. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patty. That was very well elaborated. Thank you so much for the presentation. And thank you to everyone who has joined us tonight in this session. We really appreciate your presence here. Your presence is a present to all of us. We have come to the end of the session. I would like to ask Butomi to please close for us in prayer.
Okay, thank you, Tundeni. I will also keep it short like Dr. Mdu today is excelling with short prayers. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for this time. Thank you for the lessons that we've received today. Thank you for the precious gift of life that you have given us. And thank you, Lord. Bless us as we go into our separate ways. Bless our plans in Jesus' name. Amen.